We thought it might be a truck driving by. When it happened again, we got up and started reading the news on the internet. And we found out that there were explosions happening in all the cities.
My mom awoke from her sleep to sirens sounding all over the city. Of course, we were very anxious and turned on the TV immediately. But we didn't even have to look for information, because all the channels were already talking about the fact that war had started.
Every day it became more difficult. It became more difficult to deliver food, and the food became more expensive.
People started to panic, which led to panic buying of medicines and basic staple products.
Yes, before that, during the pandemic, for 2 years now, brothers had been constantly reminding us of the necessity of go bags. And then, closer to the war, reminders also began to come from brothers about not only stocking up on such backpacks, but also about checking what condition they were in. And it was also recommended to stock up on food for 2 months in advance.
Here again, unfortunately, we have more of the Jehovah's Witness organization praising itself over the Ukraine war. And in this particular case, the preparedness of Jehovah's Witnesses in Ukraine when war struck. I certainly don't see it as a bad thing that Jehovah's Witnesses in Ukraine and elsewhere are encouraged to have go bags. I suppose it's common sense, isn't it? Given the way things are, the way things always have been, with political, civil unrest, natural disasters which are increasing due to climate change, it makes sense to have plans in place, to have equipment and essentials ready. I just don't see it as being anything unique or anything to brag about. And in fact, what this smacks of, again, is exploiting a war that is killing countless people, exploiting misery and carnage to promote an organization, to make an organization look as though it's the answer. Only if you're a Jehovah's Witness would you be able to deal with this situation. What an insult that is to the millions of Ukrainians that are dealing with this disaster, are dealing with this atrocity by Putin's Russia without being in a cult, or without being in the Jehovah's Witness cult in particular. What an insult it is to them to suggest that the only way you can really get through all of this is if you have a belief that 8 dudes in New York, USA, are a channel between the Almighty and mankind. Nonsense. And by the way, go bags are by no means unique to Jehovah's Witnesses. There's such a thing as prepping. Many of you in America will know all about prepping, particularly, I guess, in the Bible Belt. It's a big thing, isn't it, in America? Lots of people, for whatever reason, believe in the necessity of keeping supplies ready. In fact, some go as far as to build bunkers or rent bunkers that have been pre-built for like a nuclear emergency. You know, this sort of thinking isn't unique to Jehovah's Witnesses. Lots of people subscribe to that sort of thinking, including to extremes of that sort of thinking. It doesn't make any of these people closer to God. It doesn't make them the channel with the Almighty. It just means they're concerned about world events and want to be ready. But if you're a Jehovah's Witness, everything's different. No. Our organization is prepared for Armageddon. And isn't it interesting that just a short while before the war broke out in Ukraine, we were getting reminders about our go bags and making sure our go bags were in good condition. Come on. Is this what we're stooping to now when it comes to pointing at evidence for God's backing? Isn't this precisely what you would expect of any doomsday group, any fear-mongering group that points frantically at signs that these are the last days? Wouldn't you expect such a group to encourage, for better or worse, disaster preparedness? Only unfortunately, this isn't just a case of disaster preparedness, is it? It's not just a case of encouraging people to be ready for any situation. This is a case of an organization exploiting and pouncing upon misery and death as an opportunity to promote itself.